Welcome back to the Nitty Gritty, episode 129. We are here with a bishop. I used to call you bishop. I also used to call you forks and knives. Remember that?
That's forks and knives. That's right. I forgot about that. Yeah, I've since been released as bishop. But
you're never released from bishop.
That's true.
Right.
That is
so.
True.
It is still proper to call you bishop.
But I am serving in a bishopric at BYU.
Oh, that's kind of cool.
Yeah, as a counselor. Yeah.
Oh, we should get into that. What you're dealing with over there?
Well,
no, I'm just kidding.
Talk to the bishop about that.
Jason Smith, CEO of Sponsor CX. Am I saying that right?
Yep, absolutely. Yeah,
I've known Jason since I opened.
Yeah.
Right, you were with the BYU IMG sponsorship team at BYU the first year that Bam Bams was around.
Yep.
And so I used to call him Forks and Knives because he ate his barbecue with a fork and a knife. And so
I'm a clean guy.
I made fun of him because Jason is not a small man. He is a normal-sized person, just like me.
Forks
and so
and
to
knives.
see a big dude like him eating brisket with a fork and a knife, I'm like, you just have to be made fun of. That's just...
Yeah, and I embraced it.
You did, and he never flinched. It did not.
Yeah.
Some people I would say that to, and they just be like, "You're right," and they would just start eating with their hands. And
I owned it.
you owned it, and that's okay. I like
I'm
that.
okay. Forks
Hold
and
on.
knives.
So
man.
you want people to eat barbecue with their hands?
Well, I mean, look, you don't need a knife to cut my brisket, first of all, right? So
That is a true
when you're
sentence.
eating it with a fork and a knife and looking like you're sitting at the Windsor Palace eating a filet mignon.
It's more
That's
of
an issue, especially when it's a big man, right?
I don't need it to
totally
cut.
use
I
the
just
fork
need it
and
to.
a knife.
It's an instrument.
It's to balance out the two sides.
Yeah, it's an
You gotta
instrument
have something
to
in each hand.
to separate
Oh my gosh.
one side of the meat to the other side of the meat.
Oh man, maybe with turkey I would allow it. Like that's okay because you can't really like take your knife and or your fork and cut that. But
A little bit more hearty.
but if you do eat ribs with a fork and a knife, then you really deserve it.
I think that's where you really got me.
And I
I think
see
it was
that.
mostly the ribs because people pick up ribs and eat them, right? But I don't.
Yeah,
I cut the
understand.
meat off. Yeah.
No, women do that.
Yeah,
But,
that's okay.
I mean,
I'll own it.
Gender norms are kind of gone now, so maybe it's okay.
Yeah.
But back in 13, 14, when we could still make fun of that sort of thing,
Yeah.
I gave it to him. But now it's okay. Non-binary
I'm
eating.
the first. I guess I'm the
what we
first.
call it.
I'm the first offensive lineman to actually eat ribs with
Right.
pork and knife.
And maybe that was the part, right?
Yeah.
You're just a bigger dude.
Yeah,
So, but yeah,
right.
now it's gender neutral. You can eat however you want.
that's right.
So maybe that's why I've never seen you eat with a fork and a knife. You eat with both, Andrew?
How about with ribs?
sure do.
How about ribs?
I'll pick up a rib.
Okay.
See,
All right.
okay.
I think that's the difference.
So we're good.
Yeah, I'll pick up a rib, but I totally will cut my brisket.
Like I get not eating
Eat
like
pieces
women don't
of
eat
it.
ribs like off the bone very often because it's just kind of a texture thing. They're taking the rib meat off the rib bone, so it's just pork. It's fine.
Yeah, it's just kind of.
But there's something about pulling it off the bone. A lot of women they just don't. They are not down with that.
And your ribs are fall off the bone, right? So it's just kind of
They're very close. Technically, if they're completely fall off the bone, I'm doing it wrong. I've
there you
overcooked them. But so we try to be close. But they pull away.
They pull away easily.
They leave a dry bite. That's what we want,
there
right?
you go.
So yeah, so welcome. So I've known Jason for a long time. I've been watching his career closely.
Thank you.
Really, but
Thank
I mean,
you.
I see it on LinkedIn and Facebook. We're friends.
Yeah,
right?
yeah.
But
Absolutely.
so let's just explain to people your background a little bit. Like, where did you grow up? First of all.
Yeah, I'm an Oregonian. I grew up.
Are you
in,
really?
Yeah, I grew up in Tigard, Oregon, just south of Portland.
Wasn't that where the first Nike store was when they were selling tigers?
Yeah, in Tigard. Yeah. Beaverton.
I only know that because I'm listening to Shoe Dog again right now. It's like
I
one
do
of my
also-
favorite
it's
books.
Best
Yeah.
book.
I love it. And I remember they got tigers in. That was their first shoe before Nike.
Yep.
And they
Yep.
put their first store, I thought,
Yeah,
right
they
there.
did. They did, and yeah. So grew up an Oregon Duck fan, Phil Knight, and I mean everyone loves Nike there, but Adidas is there now too, right? So I think
Freaking
Portland,
true.
Oregon is pretty much
They
the
don't count,
shoe capital of the world. But yeah, grew up there. Grew up a big Portland Trailblazer fan as well. Still am to this day. We're trying to lose as many games we can to they literally last
keep
night.
Dame happy.
They need to keep Dame happy. We gotta keep Dame around. But yeah, so grew up in Portland. Went to BYU, and while at BYU,
Why not Oregon?
well, you know, it was an option. So I played football growing up. I was recruited to play football. there was a few different schools to look at, and by the time my senior year came around, I really wanted to play at BYU. I mean, I grew up a huge BYU fan.
Yeah.
I mean, I loved Oregon, but I was a BYU fan.
Okay.
And I had some options, but and if you remember Lance Reynolds, back in the day, he would come out and recruit me.
Coach Lance, like senior?
Yeah, yep, like senior.
It's a scary man.
Yeah. So he come out and recruit me, and we met up, and he even had me commit on the spot to play for BYU, and had a great relationship there. And then he called me one day, like at the end of, it was like right in the middle of the football season, and he's like, "Hey, Jason, we've got more missionaries coming back that we don't have as many scholarships as we thought." And I'd already told all the other schools that I was going to BYU, and he goes, "Hey, I feel really terrible about this, but we're not going to be able to. We'll give you a preferred walk-on, status, but we're not going to be able to offer you that scholarship like we were." And back then, social media would have went blowing up over.
Did he give one of those scholarships to his son?
Yeah, exactly.
Oh,
No, I don't know.
freaking Lance!
No, I can't remember who it was. But so anyway, I really was still a believer in BYU. It was a big hit for me. But I went to. He said, "So there's two options." He goes, "You want to play for us? You can come be a preferred walk-on, or you can go to Rick's College, play there for a season, and then when the scholarship opens, we'll bring you back down." So I decided to opt for that instead, so I could have, because Rick's
play.
College would pay for my school,
Yeah.
right? So I ended up going to Rick's, and I played. If you know Adam Parker in the licensing department at BYU,
Right.
we played together at Rick's,
Okay.
and so played at Rick's for that year, my freshman year, and I blew my back out.
Oh no.
And so I went on my mission, and I ended up coming back and tried to play again, and I hurt my back again, and the doctor's like, "Hey, you should probably not play football anymore." So I did come back down to BYU, but I ended up not playing just because of my back situation. But so that's how it all happened from my time of trying to play BYU football.
Wow.
I was there, then I wasn't there, and then I really wasn't there anymore. But
Dang.
But then came but I got a great education there. Graduated advertising communications.
So
And,
athletic.
Yeah,
Athletic degrees.
it's my athletic degree.
Right.
Yeah, exactly.
I'm
Hey,
allowed
it's
to make
actually
fun
pretty
of people
difficult.
because I didn't go to college.
Hey, I'm going to defend it. It's actually a pretty difficult school to get into.
Oh,
So-
very hard school to get into.
Yeah,
I was just saying the degrees are what most athletes
I
do.
know. Communications.
Yeah, communications, art,
Exactly.
Spanish, minor in Spanish.
Yep.
Is that what you did?
Yep, minor
or
in
your
Spanish.
associates in Spanish.
Yeah.
But you
I
probably
got a
served
minor in
Spanish
English.
speaking.
Minor in English. My associate's from Rick's in Spanish. I mean, I went Spanish speaking on my mission, and I tested out
Breeze.
of like 20 credits, right?
Smart.
And so I got my associates there. English minor, advertising communications major, and while I was at BYU, I was selling ads for the Daily Universe.
Right.
That's how I made money.
Right.
100% commission
Wow.
on it. Yeah, and so that's how I paid for school. And then I had an internship with the Utah Jazz,
Right.
and how I ended up getting that, I had a Grant Harrison, who was the VP of game ops. He actually came into our intro to advertising class and started talking about the Jazz, and I'm sitting there going, man, if I can combine advertising and sports, this is like dream job.
For sure.
So I go up to him afterwards, and I'm like, hey, do you have any internships? And he said, well, call me after the playoffs. Here's my card. And that was back in the Karl Malone and John Stockton days. And he's like, and so I called him afterwards, and he set me up, and get this, you'll appreciate this, Cam. So I go into this interview, and who ended up being my boss, Kelly Crane, she's like super tiny,
Right.
and I'm like super large.
Right.
And so we're in there, and she just can't get over how tall I am compared to her, and we're talking through it, and we had a good
Don't you work for the Jazz,
yeah
lady?
I know
You're
exactly.
like point guard height.
So anyway, we have a great interview. She calls me like a week or two later, and she's like, hey, Jason, this is Kelly. I want to offer you the job as the intern for us on the game ops side with the Jazz. I'm like, oh, I'm super excited, thank you. And she goes, really, when it comes down to it, you had on your resume that you worked at the Men's Big and Tall. So so I feel like you actually had to work in this job because you worked in the Men's Big and Tall. So,
No
because
way.
I worked there for like 2 months, like when I moved down to Provo for like a little bit.
Oh my God.
And I had it
that's
on my
really
resume,
funny.
and she's like, "You work the Men's Big and Tall. You have to work for the Jazz." So
Wow.
anyway, that was how I got my Jazz jobs, because I worked at Casual Male Big and Tall.
The one right here?
Yeah,
Or what
the
is
one that Plato's Closet.
Oh,
now,
yeah.
It was right there. It
It
wasn't
was
this
there.
one by you. Yeah.
No way.
So anyway,
So
that's how I got the Jazz job.
So what'd you do for the Jazz?
Yeah, so as an intern, I was game operations. So I was like pulling on the AT&T shoot for loot game, and
Right.
doing that type of thing. And I did that for a couple years. I was making $6 an hour my first year there, doing that. And then my second year, they decided to bump me up to $8.50 an hour. It's awesome. It pretty much paid for my gas up to every game.
Yeah.
But I was courtside every game.
Did you actually get to watch the
Complain about
games?
that.
Yeah.
Okay.
So I would get everything ready for the game, and then during the game I'd stand in the corner, have all like the games to pull out onto the court, and I'd just watch the game until it was ready for it to come out, and I would pull the stuff onto the court. It was a dream job.
And it was an internship, right?
It was an internship, and I was making bank.
That's the one thing, like
Sure.
the ushers that are at all the games, but
yeah.
they have to sit with their backs to it.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
It's like, that would be miserable.
That's why they're all so mean.
Yeah.
I had a
just
headset
pissed
on,
off.
so the cool thing is you have a headset on, so you can like hear all the workings of what's going on, with the whole game operations crew, which was fun. So I did that for 2 years, while I was selling, newspaper ads
Right.
to actually really make money. And then once I graduated, there wasn't a job with the Jazz or anything there, so I ended up working for the Denver newspaper agency in Denver.
wow.
So I went kind of that newspaper route, and I hated every minute of it. It was awful.
Oh, you went from courtside at the Jazz.
I know, it was so bad. Yeah.
Oh,
I love
that'd be
Denver. Denver's
brutal.
a cool town. I like
It's
Denver.
okay. It used to be cool.
Yeah, it's
It's
just
getting a little douchey now.
yeah. I haven't been back in a while, so
Yeah.
But anyway, so I ended up keeping in touch with the Jazz, and one of their sponsorship guys left, and it was about 9 months after I had graduated, and I ended up interviewing for the position, and it's super cool. Like Grant Harrison, who hired me as an intern, here I am, this young like 25-year-old, and all the sponsorship sales guys, they're in their like late 30s, 40s,
Right.
been doing this for a while. He walked in and he said, "Hey, listen, you got to the VP of sponsorship for the Jazz, Mike Snar," and he's like, "Hey, you got to take a chance on this kid." And so they had me come out and interview, and anyway, they offered me the job.
They liked
so
your big and tall experience.
yeah, they're like, "You are
right.
big and tall, and you work for
Still
us
banking
before."
on that big and tall experience.
Yeah, I'm like, I worked at the Casual Mail, so absolutely, you need to hire me.
You
So
see measuring Jazz players like, you're looking like a 2X tall.
yeah.
Let's bring in the shoulders.
And so anyway, so I got hired on to do sponsorship sales for them at a fairly young age. It was fun.
How long did you do that?
Let's see, I was probably 3 years on the sales side.
So like
with
what do
that,
those sponsorships look like for the Jazz? Like how much are people paying,
Back then, it's a lot different today than it was back then. I
Yeah.
mean, we didn't even. I was there when we were putting the first ever LED ribbon boards in the arena.
Okay.
And now you go to Vivint Arena now, and it's LED boards all over the place. So
Yep.
many different assets, and it's amazing what organizations are paying out there now for sponsorships.
sure.
But back then it was kind of the wild west a little bit. It was whatever you could sell it for.
Right.
And like what was your pitch to people? Because like people are going to like, I don't know. I've always been so interested with sponsorships and like billboards and just general, because I'm a nerd with numbers. Like how do you measure that return? Right.
Yeah.
And so it's like, how do you justify, and then you hear some of these dollars for what these sponsorships are going for.
Yeah.
Like what the Staples Center just became crypto.com and it was like,
Yeah.
was like an $800 million deal or something like that.
Well, I'll tell you this.
Like that's insanity.
Yeah, it's nuts. But I'll tell you this. So this kind of gets into my Mountain America career, right? When I was
yeah.
on the brand side, because that's where I was doing a lot of, valuations
Yeah,
and
you're
things
paying
like that.
for those things back then.
Right, because I'm actually like saying, hey, we're going to buy this.
Yeah.
But on the sales side, we valued it what we felt like it was valued at, but there's a little bit more science to it. To answer your question, I mean, the thing you have to realize when you're evaluating a sponsorship is not all impressions are created equal.
Sure.
So driving by, Vivint Arena and having the logo on the stadium is a different, kind of impression than if I had an event presence there and I'm serving them Bam Bam's barbecue and they're actually tasting my food at the arena. Right. That's a different touch point, and it's a better value.
Way better
than you would on the other. But the name on the arena is going to have more.
For sure.
Right? So that's why that value goes a lot higher, because there's so many more. But that is also it's just you're going to value how many people can actually demo your product than not. So you have to evaluate.
It's going to convert a lot more often when they're actually tasting the food, right?
Totally, right? Or if from a financial institution, like if I can sit there and actually talk to them about their auto loan and how we can help them or consolidate debt or whatever, that's a little bit more of a touch point than just driving by and seeing a logo on a building.
Right.
So is it just their budget is so big they have to put your name on a building? Is it like our marketing budget is just so big that this is the only way to spend it? Because it's to your point, instead of doing
maybe?
one of those, wouldn't it be more efficient to do 100 small ones?
Media value. So the Staples Center, now at crypto.com, the media value is astronomical. And you think of
every concert,
and the facility that's there. I mean, they got two NBA teams.
Call it the Delta Center.
Yeah. They also have two NBA teams. They have two NBA teams there. I mean, Clippers are building their own arena, but for now, I don't know how they structured that, but there's two NBA teams there. All the concerts that take place there. It's in LA.
Yeah.
The amount of national broadcasts that take place there.
Forgot the Kings, by the way.
Yeah, the Kings. Yeah, the Kings. The Kings are also there.
Everybody forgot about
the
Kings.
You shut up. That is not true.
The Kings are there too. Somehow they figured out how to keep the Kings in there. And so you have to, media value is what drives that number so high, because when you have the amount of eyeballs that are on crypto.com during a, Lakers game or Clippers game, and the big shots from up there looking down on it, and then every crypto.com is literally, they have to call it at crypto.com or
every radio thing, everything is just like, this weekend at crypto.com stadium or arena. Yeah, it does. It gets mentioned.
Yeah, it's everywhere. And that's
how do you measure that though? Because I understand the values there, but is there an equation for that?
Yeah.
That those crypto is using or that Mountain America is using to name something, right?
Everyone has their own valuation system.
Okay.
I have my own. Crypto's probably got theirs.
Got it.
And so I can't sit here and outline one for you.
Sure.
I have my own that I do, but
is it a views thing?
It comes down to not all impressions are created equal.
Right.
I'm going to break down the entire deal, because it's not like they just bought the name on the arena.
Of course.
They bought the name on the arena. They bought some promotion. They have association with athletes. They have all these different things.
Oh, the networking. Yeah, like the Lakers playing my arena and the Kings.
So let's just say there's 200 sponsorship assets in that naming rights deal. Every single one of them has a different impression and different value proposition on that impression, if that makes sense. So,
So when you heard that deal come through with the number, were you like, oh yeah, that's a good deal? Or you were like, oh my gosh, that's a lot?
I felt like it was a lot.
Okay.
But it doesn't surprise me at the same time.
But all their Bitcoin just keeps going up in value, so they can afford it.
Because I will say this, a lot of times, I've seen crazy deals before where it's just what people will pay well too. So sometimes
Ford
you get
Broncos right now. People pay $93,000 for a $50,000 car just because they want one. I mean, it's got to be the same with everything, right?
And that's how it is. So you never know. They could have been in a bidding war with FTX or something, right?
Yeah.
With it. So I mean, it's all in the beholder, of how important that was for crypto to have their name in LA on that stadium, on how much they would be willing to pay on those different types of impression valuations.
Yeah.
But everyone's got to have their own way to be able to analyze it. And that's why a lot of these agencies and things like that, I mean, we on the sponsor CX side, we have a whole consulting arm as well too, where we'll if someone wants us to come in and do a full valuation of their property to analyze like
what you could sell it for, what you could market
exactly,
for.
we'll do
That's
a whole
cool.
deep dive. We'll do a whole deep dive, and we'll use our valuation platform to be able to do that for them.
Yeah.
So what do you think is there any other, like as far as arenas go, not stadiums, where would you rank the Crypto.com arena as far as like value for all the things that you get by owning it?
Like as an asset.
Maybe Madison Square Garden is above it slightly.
Yeah, I mean, it's one of the most iconic.
Right.
It's probably one or two, top three.
Right. Because you
just
hear
off the top of
Staples
my
Center.
head.
Plus, where they painted the route, like it. Holy crap! They really, really squeezed every drop of marketing out of that.
And
place.
Madison Square Garden is also iconic, right?
But that's the thing. Madison Square Garden has the history.
Yep.
But as far as like, it's kind of it's old.
Yeah.
And it's
Well, you never even
you
know.
can't really grow. That's the thing. Like it doesn't even really look like an arena when you drive by it.
Yeah.
Which is kind of cool.
It's covered in
but it
scaffolding
doesn't
right
get
now.
near the Staples Center.
even.
Like a helicopter flies over Staples Center. It's like, boom, there's the Staples Center, right?
Yeah, and now it has the crypto on it, right?
Right.
And so you walk into Crypto Stadium, it's not that
No,
cool of a stadium.
Yeah.
it's
but
kind of old. It's getting a little old. I mean,
it's
it's
pretty
what,
old.
20,
Like,
20-something years old.
The
30 years old?
concourses are really narrow.
Right.
But when you walk into the stadium and they have the lights dimmed around the crowd,
Right.
and the light is shining right on the court, it's showtime, right?
Right.
And then they have like this like foggy mist that kind of goes through the whole. It's just this nostalgia.
production.
Yeah,
It's awesome.
It's really cool.
See, Madison Square Garden's dark like that, but that's just because their lighting sucks.
Yeah, yeah.
Like I've never understood that. I went to a hockey game there. I was like, are they going to turn the lights
coming
on
on
at all? Or I'm like, no, this is as bright as it gets. It was
Yeah.
weird.
Yeah.
It's yeah. So it's I would say it's at least top two, top three as far as from
So like to name something
market.
like what does competition look like that, right? Like how many people are bidding on that? Like use the Staples Center just because we're talking about it. But I mean, I want to get into smaller stuff, but is it like a ton of people that are trying to go after it, or is it usually just maybe one or two?
It's only a finite amount of companies. Only a finite amount of companies that really can afford something like that. it
Yeah.
seems. So like Joe's Crab Shack down the street probably isn't going to put their name on the building,
All the
right?
franchises come together.
You know. But yeah, Joe's Crab Shack, Bam Bam's Barbecue.
Yeah, I actually
Stadium.
have an AYSO soccer field that I'm bidding on right now.
There you
It's
go.
down in
Nice, there
Salem.
you go.
It's not a field yet, but no, I'm just kidding.
But it's usually you'll identify like categories that you want to look at. So in this case, they probably looked at, hey, crypto's big right now. Let's see if there's any crypto companies that want to put their name on it. It's even better if
It's like,
you
can we take advantage of them?
Yeah, take advantage of them. No, but it's also finding like new money too.
For
right?
sure.
So it's like they didn't have a crypto deal before, so they looked at it and said, okay, we need a new naming rights partner. Where's new money
Yeah.
that we can get that's not going to like pull from like our current sponsor base
See, that's
and go
the other
out and
thing, right?
and go get new money?
Right, like starting a little bit of a, you can't go after old donors or old sponsors.
Yeah.
Because it's like, they're mine.
Yeah,
Don't touch them.
Yeah,
I mean, that happens at BYU all the time, right?
Yeah.
Like, you can't get, so yeah, new money would make sense because it's just a cleaner,
it's
easier
cleaner.
deal.
I think it is nice from a partner standpoint to look at your partners and go, hey, is there any that we need to give the opportunity to, right? Because they've been partners for a while.
Right.
I think that's the right move to make. And I don't know how Crypto.com did it. I wasn't in on any of those negotiations, but I'm sure
they with like LeBron too. Like, aren't they doing like individual stuff with LeBron James?
Yeah.
I don't know.
Isn't he a Crypto.com?
Yeah,
Didn't
they
he
have
do commercials?
to do that. They have to do that outside of the collective bargaining agreement. So Crypto would buy the sponsorship through the team, and then they got to go work with Rich Paul, I guess,
Right,
or
right.
whoever it is,
Yeah.
his marketing agent, and work out that deal separately.
I mean, it kind of makes sense to work with athletes that are in your building,
Yeah.
Oh yeah,
right?
100%. Yeah.
Interesting.
Yeah.
God, they must have had a buttload of extra money to play with.
Oh,
Like, that's
those crypto companies
crazy.
have a lot of money.
Well,
they're all over the place.
And they're popping up everywhere now. They're
Oh, yeah.
buying teams and events,
Miami's
arenas.
FTX,
Yeah.
FTX, right?
Uh-huh.
So
So on a more local level, if you will, I mean, I guess a question. Most of the companies that Sponsor CX works with, are they like more local, smaller companies, or are you still working with kind of bigger brands with bigger budgets?
Yeah, so I'll kind of transition and tell you about what Sponsor CX does. So we have a consulting arm,
Okay.
The company, but that's not necessarily our focus. Our focus is the software. So our current platform that we have today is what we call our property product, which we will, a lot of our customers are in the, either sports properties, nonprofits, the arts, events, or in any organization that's really selling sponsorships, and they need a software platform to manage their sponsorships end to end. So basically a CRM for sponsorship.
Okay.
And so we work with like Megaplex Theaters. We work with them. We just signed on or Health Center Theater here locally. So there's there's kind of an entertainment piece, but we also work with like the Clemson Tigers, right? And they use our platform to manage all their sponsorships there as well too. So it's across the board, from a sports team all the way down to a nonprofit. We have an organization in Denver called the International Association of the Study of Lung Cancer that uses our platform.
Really?
As well too. Like, so here we have, Clemson and the Lung Cancer Association, right? So it's like,
Is that big tobacco that's funding that?
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. Pfizer's big sponsor. Yeah, AstraZeneca. So that's the cool thing about our platform. So we're working with what we call properties that sell sponsorships at different levels. So we have, in fact, we just did a deal with the Hall of Fame Village in Canton, Ohio, as well too. Yeah, so they're using our platform. They got a water park as part of the Hall of Fame there, and a football stadium, and a bowl game that's going to be held there and stuff. And so it's awesome. Yeah, they're using it as well. So it's pretty fun to like work with so many different organizations to help them, grow their sponsorship portfolio.
So this is kind of interesting. So backing up, so you're selling sponsorships with the Jazz.
Yep. Yeah.
And then you go to Mountain America Credit Union after that?
No, I went to. That's where I went to BYU.
That's right.
Yeah.
You went to BYU.
So when
doing
I was
the same thing.
Yeah. So when I was with the Jazz, I then ended up coming down to BYU, and that's where we met, Cam.
Yes, we did. It was a special day.
It was a special moment.
Yeah.
Forks and knives.
Yep.
And so I sold sponsorships at BYU for a good 7 years there, as I was the director of sales there for a while. And
what was the big difference between the Jazz and BYU, like selling sponsorships, or was it pretty similar, pro level to college level?
It's pretty similar.
Right.
It's pretty similar. I think there's more. When you're with the Jazz, like everyone's a fan of the Jazz, right?
Yeah.
So
most people.
But when you get down to like you're selling for BYU, I mean, business owners should be fans of just like customers, right?
Yes.
So, but sometimes that gets in the way of affinity sometimes. So
right.
if they're a you person, sometimes that made it a little bit harder to sell a sponsorship, to maybe someone who's a
people are silly.
Fan,
but I get it. I get
you
that.
would never do a Utah.
I would if I was down there. Like if I had a store up in Salt Lake, I would totally get behind Utah.
Yeah. You should.
Not down here.
Yeah.
And I mean, I'd still wear my BYU hat every time I was in there. Like people know I'm a BYU guy, but it's a business, right? Like,
well, and it's not that everybody's like that, but that does happen.
Totally.
Right?
And I can see that. But you're right. Like if this was my only store and Utah offered me some awesome, deal, it'd be like, I don't know if I should do that.
Because I would get it. Like if I'm a business owner down here and he's coming and pitching me, and I went to the U, I'd be like, no thanks.
Yeah. I mean, you gotta stick with your brand.
Some, and it seems like the ones that are part of like bigger organizations see past
for sure.
red and blue, but it's the smaller ones that I think that get a little bit more. Like if it's a Utah County business, they're not going to meddle very much in the Utah side. Vice versa.
Totally.
If it's in Salt Lake, they're not going to really meddle in the BYU stuff. Even though they might have a ton of money and they got billboards all up and down I-15.
Yeah.
They may not still come down and do the BYU thing.
Right.
So
I get that.
So that's probably the biggest difference, but it's not any different than selling for for the Jazz.
Is there a certain industry or industries that, because it, like when you said you were working for the Jazz, it kind of sounded like it was free for all, like go out and find sponsors. Like, was there ever any like focus on this industry or that, restaurants
so,
or clothing, or
if we had industries that we didn't have a lot of money coming into, then we would focus on those.
Right.
We actually got best practices from the NBA on what other teams were doing and how much money they were doing in certain categories. So we would look at it and go, gosh, the Oklahoma City Thunder are doing really well in this and the quick service restaurant side, but like we only have 2. Like,
right.
Is there like a go-to industry? Like these guys are always going to give us money.
financial institutions.
Yeah.
Why is that?
Because they got
Just
so
'cause
much
they have
bloody
the
money.
They have the money, number one. It's also super competitive.
Okay.
It's an ego thing. They want their names on the buildings.
Yeah.
They want their names up there.
Financial institution. Also, the Coke Pepsi battle is a big
Oh,
one,
yeah.
but that's always going to be there with
So
that.
man, so the financial institutions, you could totally pit them against each other. Like, oh, is that well? Wells Fargo gave me $10 million this year.
No, listen, I have sat through some working on the Mountain America side, sat through some interesting exclusivity discussions, right?
Right.
You know, I mean,
I've had some of those just in my little world.
I know, and it gets intense.
It does.
Yeah.
So actually, on that note, because you were saying like you helped Mountain America become the exclusive credit union for BYU, right, or something like that.
Yeah.
So does that have any? I don't know if the right word is impact or control over the ads they show like between a basketball game? So like they can't show like the Deseret First Credit Union ads in between a basketball game now.
Totally.
Like, is that part of the deal?
Yeah, that's part of the
the
deal.
contract.
Yeah, so the only caveat would be if it's an ESPN controlled game, right? You know, on there. So if it's BYU controlled assets, it's exclusivity.
Oh, okay.
So like BYU TV, any of those, anything in stadium that you see, it's only going to be the only credit union you're going to see there is Mountain America Credit Union.
Okay.
Yeah.
So does the competition go hard on like the national games then to make sure their name is still there?
I'm sure they do. Yeah, I'm sure they do. Like
Especially
wherever
the
they
big
can.
swinging dicks with the financial institutions, right?
Well,
Call
we did.
ESPN immediately.
Well, if we were, if Mountain America was locked out of something, then
That's where you would go, right?
That's what we would do.
Yeah.
Well, there's people during the game. That's all they're doing is taking those phone calls.
Yeah.
Like Nike has a person on every game watching the sidelines like a hawk. If somebody's down on the sidelines, even if they're not with the team, and you can see Adidas shoes, they will make you stand in a place where you can't see them or make you go change shoes.
Oh, really?
It's crazy.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
It's crazy.
As long as it's within the confines of the contract.
Right.
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 Yeah.
Well, there's that. Was it like the Olympic team? I think they had like a
Oh,
Nike
yeah,
sponsorship, and they had to put all the players that had different shoes.
Yep.
They had to hide
Yep.
all their stuff.
It's crazy. But I mean, it is big bucks. I mean, I get it.
You're paying for it.
You are paying for it. So what's cool about Mountain America is you went from selling to being the customer almost, right?
Yeah. So
you moved there.
Saw both sides of it.
Yeah. So I spent over a decade on the sponsorship sales side, and then Mountain America was one of my partners.
Clients, right.
Yeah. And so I had a great relationship with them, and they
At BYU. Right.
when I was at BYU, and they said, "Hey, we're actually looking to grow, and we in the sponsorship area. Would you be interested in coming over as our VP of sponsorship?" And we had a really good discussion. Sharon Cook there, the CMO, she's a really great friend of mine. She's amazing. And Marshall Papke at the time, he was the EVP there. He's since moved on, but they brought me in, and Mountain America was $3.6 billion in assets at the time. That was in 2014.
Right.
And by the time I left, I don't know where they're at today. They're growing like crazy.
Oh my gosh, they're everywhere.
Mountain America is probably pushing, $15 billion in assets now. So it was fun to see the growth of the company.
Yeah, they've really embraced. I mean, NIL. They've embraced sponsorship. I mean, they are all over the place. I feel like the last few years.
Yeah.
They have you to thank for that, probably. Huh?
Yeah. Well,
no big deal.
appreciate that.
So what was the biggest difference? I mean, I'm sure that was kind of fun for you to be like, you knew all the tricks that the salespeople were going to use.
Yeah.
When somebody called and said, "Hey, you interested in sponsoring something?" You're like, "I got this."
I got this. Yeah, no.
So what was different
Yeah.
about it? And
No,
did
it
you
was
like
fun.
that side better or the sales side better?
I mean, both sides have fun elements to them, right? You know, being at the games and stuff like that, that's fun. Like when you're working for these teams.
Right.
When you also are married with 4 kids and you have to be at all the games, it's
Right.
and it's funny saying it out loud. You have to be at all the games. Like,
But you do.
when I
That's a
started
ton
at the
of
Jazz, I
hours.
was single, right? And that was awesome. But you get married and then you have 4 kids later. It starts to become aware on you a little bit when you have to be at 43 home games and you're
It
not,
wasn't aware
and
on
you're
you.
working, and you're working.
It was aware on your wife and your
Yeah.
children.
Yeah, exactly.
You were
So-
at a football game.
Yeah, I know.
I'm just reminding you of that.
I know.
Joke.
And I just got to the point where it was like, gosh, this could be really great. Now I could go when I need to be able to go,
Right.
and not necessarily like you have to be there all the way
had to
till
be nice.
midnight. You know, so
And,
So
and I should take that back. It's not like you had to be. You were schmoozing the whole like. That's a tough job because you're down there like, yeah, you're on the field and you're watching, but
Yeah.
usually it's with a partner
yeah,
and maybe one of their punk kids.
It-
And you've got to just be happy to be there.
Yes,
I mean
but-
it is a lot of pressure and it is a lot of work.
well, you're working.
Right.
I mean, even though you're at the game, you're working, and it is fun, but it can take a toll on you as well. But being on the brand side, I mean, I really enjoyed it. So I was working with, the Jazz, the Suns, the Coyotes, I threw in some hockey there for you. The
I
Coyotes.
appreciate that.
And Boise State, BYU, but then also like Hale Center Theater, the Mountain America Expo Center, the Jazz and some of those. And so it was fun to be able to kind of working with like the Humane Society of Utah, but then also working with, the Phoenix Suns, right? And everything in between. It was pretty fun.
What was your biggest sponsorship check you cut at Mountain America?
They'll kill me if I said that. If I said that.
Can you say who it was with?
I still do consulting work for Mountain America, so I can't. I'm under NDAs on that.
Can you say who? Could you say who your biggest partner is, without saying a dollar amount?
No,
or
I
where
would
you
say
put the most money.
I would say that the professional sports
Right.
and the collegiate sports are some of the biggest,
Right.
partnerships
Yeah.
that they have there, especially when you go exclusive,
For sure.
because that comes with a pretty hefty tag
Yes,
Yep.
it does.
on it. But I've been able to kind of outline if you go exclusive in these,
You get what you pay for, right?
you get what you pay for, like even the same assets that you have, and you're the only player in your industry in there. I mean, you can get a 4x to 5x value
Yeah.
in that because you're just getting rid of all the clutter and the focus.
Could
is
also
like,
do that with patents. I found out a couple weeks ago.
Oh.
Yeah.
Don't get me started.
So I do have a question though, because sports
Redirect.
in general are getting more crowded. Like even basketball, they were one of the they now have a patch on the jersey that's a sponsorship patch.
Yeah.
But now on the floor, they have 4 spots that's constantly changing. Right before, like it was
Virtual ones, right?
Yeah.
Yep.
and so like everything is becoming more NASCAR style, where there's so many brands. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like,
I'll share a little bit insight on this. Like, Mountain America used to have the floor logos like under the benches. If you remember with that, they're not there anymore. That's a whole nother podcast. But there's the virtual logos on there. And that was one of the things that I had a discussion with them on was, with the virtual logos, I actually really liked the floor apron logos. Those were awesome.
Yeah.
From a TV standpoint, media standpoint, and a branding standpoint, they were great. But when you start throwing a bunch of other logos on the floor from a TV value, it just becomes more cluttered.
Yep.
Waters it down.
And so as a brand, I'm speaking as a brand.
Totally.
Like
As
that
for the
devalues
Sure.
the asset. Because the more that you can make an asset more exclusive, like it just stands out,
Yeah.
the more valuable it becomes.
Yeah.
But if you start putting a lot of other like logos and brands around it, then it's like it's still valuable, but not as valuable
Yeah.
as it would be.
I know it's so interesting. I mean, do you think where we're going, it's just going to continue to get more and more crowded?
Let me show you hockey.
Just because
Let me show you hockey in Europe.
they want to pay more money. Soccer, hockey.
Look at this.
Yeah.
That's what a professional hockey player in Europe looks like.
Yeah.
Look at all that brand, like it's jersey, pants, socks, helmet. Like the NHL just sold helmets this year finally for the first time ever.
Yeah.
So every team has, a sticker on their helmet. But I mean, like you said, like what brand sticks out to you right there? Like there's just too many to even notice one.
Yeah, it becomes
So-
it just becomes too much. Now, to answer your question, I think the industry is trying to go a little bit more exclusive in categories, which brings down the amount of sponsors that you have, but they're paying more money.
Got it.
And you're able to scale that a little bit better. Now, the smaller properties like your minor league baseballs, they have to kind of do
As
what
many
Camp,
as you can
Right.
get.
what Camp just showed. They kind of have to because they got to bring in as much money as they can because they'll sell anything.
Yeah.
Right.
Well, it's kind of like even like billboards. You have the stationary ones, and now you have the electronic ones that are going to flip through,
Yep.
So many different ads because they can get smaller dollar amounts, but for more people, so it's more profitable to the owner of that asset.
And I think it just comes down to the property. These big five sports teams, like they, and the collegiate, space as well. I think they have more of the flexibility to be able to do a lot of the exclusive deals. And I think brands have a little bit more appetite to do them now. Collegiate sponsorships, and professional sponsorships have come a long way in 15 years. Like there's millions and millions and millions of dollars going through all these teams. But you have your smaller properties where they have assets, they have all this inventory, but they're willing to sell really wherever and whenever. Whereas the big five teams, they're a little bit more picky about where they can do this or do that.
Yep.
Got to stay on brand a little bit too.
Yep, exactly.
So when you're at Mountain America, how often was it you guys had your meetings, you knew what you wanted to target and you went after it? Or were there times where somebody approached you, they got a meeting and you're like, maybe this will work?
I think a lot of it was a little bit of both.
Right.
Sometimes we'd get a call in. It's like, hey, that's super interesting. But I think the majority of the time, I was out looking. I'd be like, this would be an interesting place to be at, and then I would kind of search it out from there.
And what's the hope? Like, what's the conversion? I mean, we're looking for new customers.
Yeah. Because
with credit unions, I know credit unions can be a little bit more like restrictive on who is a member.
Yeah. Yep. Exactly.
But Mountain America. So what is that exclusivity with them? I mean, do you have to be just a Utah resident or a resident in one of the states they operate in?
Yeah. In fact, Mountain America is a seg-based charter. So you it's fairly easy right now to become a member, just because how it works is Mountain America has a team, their seg development team, that will go to corporations or organizations and have them sign what's called a seg letter, which basically says, let's use Vivint for example. Like Vivint signs a seg letter for Mountain America that says, we allow our employees to become eligible for membership with Mountain America because we're not starting our own credit union. And so then they sign that and it goes to the NCUA, the governing body of the credit unions, right? And then it gets approved, and then every employee that works for Vivint now is qualified to be able to become a member.
And what's the difference between a credit union and a bank? Like, why would somebody choose a credit union over a bank?
For-profit versus a not-for-profit.
Okay.
So this what we just talked about there, kind of classifies it to like a not-for-profit status. Like you have to qualify, for the membership. Whereas a bank, they're a customer. They can actually they can actually walk in like a member. You're a member of the credit union because it's a co-op of money.
Gotcha.
That comes in. Whereas banks have stock.
They have
stock. They have stock and all that. There's no stock in a credit union.
Interesting.
It's all co-op.
Interesting.
Yeah.
So, I mean, that would probably determine where you were aiming, obviously, where you were aiming your advertising dollars, right?
Yeah. So areas of growth that we felt like they were looking at, Arizona was a big place. So we looked at, Arizona.
Coyotes get at least 2,600 people to their games.
All year.
Yeah.
Now they're going to be playing in a college stadium for the next 3 years.
Exactly. In Tempe.
5,000 people. But
yeah.
Oh, that's really interesting.
I had was it Ronick?
Yeah.
I had a Coyote Ronick jersey.
Are you serious?
Uh-huh.
Hey, FYI, the Coyotes are going to be playing in the Mountain America Iceplex, by the way.
Wait, that is a Mountain America building? Really?
Yeah.
The ASU one?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
No way.
Look it up.
So my buddy's
Google it.
my buddy is the equipment manager for ASU.
Oh,
For
nice.
their hockey
Yeah,
team.
yeah.
So he's all excited, but I was like, how? I was trying to get the Coyotes to come up here for 3 years. I was like, come play up here in Vivint.
Yeah.
That'd be sweet.
Yeah.
But yeah, those are going to be expensive tickets to go to an NHL game in a stadium that's only 5,000
5,000 seats. Yeah,
That'd be pretty
5,000
cool.
seats. Yeah.
I didn't know that was Mountain America.
Yeah. Yep.
It's a sweet little
Exactly.
building.
Yeah. Yeah.
Wow.
It's not even done yet.
I know. It's getting there.
Yeah, it's
But
almost there. It's a beautiful building.
very interesting. Okay, so you're handling all these sponsorships, and one day you just have the bright idea, like, I've got to figure out a way to
So
manage all this.
So in 2017 is when I started the company. I kind of went back and forth because
So you started while you were at
Mountain America. So I'm looking at it and I'm working with, all these different properties from sports down to nonprofits and everything in between. I'm looking at it, I'm going, man, like there's got to be a better way for us to manage this all because
Were you
all of
doing
them,
on like a spreadsheet?
I'm off of tons of spreadsheets and some don't even have that. Some are just taking notes on like the things that need to be done. I'm like, how am I going to be able to make sure that all this gets done? I'm working with like 60 different organizations,
Right.
and I'm looking at it going, geez, there's got to be a better way. So my first version of the software was post contract because that's where I saw the need. I was like, once the contract's signed, we just need a place that both the sponsor and the property can collaborate on proof of performance, artwork approvals, task management, be able to do that. And I built that out. I decided to invest my own money. I went overseas, had it built.
Wow.
And
how'd you know who to work with overseas?
I had no idea. I was super connected in the sponsorship space, but software development, I did
But
not.
the nerdery?
I had
Just
nothing.
didn't know anybody in the nerdery.
No, I actually worked with a company called BitBuild here locally that helped me go overseas with it. I got introduced to him by a friend of mine in the tech space. And so they helped me kind of get my beta version of it. And I had five beta users. 2 of them liked it enough they paid me for it. 3 of them said, hey, we like this, but we need like the full like CRM management of this and then have it plug into the fulfillment piece. So then I ended up meeting my now CTO and co-founder, Creed Mangrum. He's an MIT guy. Again, I had to use my own connections to be able to get a meeting with him. And we ended up meeting and he said, hey, I'll partner with you on this. But one thing, we got to like throw away your beta and we're going to start it over.
Interesting.
And I'm like, oh man,
Kicking the balls a little bit.
Yeah. So
It's like I thought it was
I know
doing
it's
so
like
good.
I just threw
Freaking
$30,000
MIT
away.
people. Oh yeah, but I mean,
But it was learning. It wasn't throwing it away. I learned a
was.
lot
Right.
through that. So it was an investment to learn. And so then he and I worked together to architect our current platform today. And and then it's just been great. So over time we just kind of iterated it and got it to where it is. And we had such a great year the last year and a half on bringing on new customers that we raised a round of capital in October.
wow.
Jeff Birmingham and the guys at Peak came in on it. If you guys know Jeff, great guy, awesome. I think it's his birthday today, actually. But,
Happy birthday,
from
Jeff.
when we're recording this episode, and then also Todd Peterson, Alex Dunn. Also
Todd Peterson. Just kidding.
yeah,
I love Todd Peterson.
good dude.
That's cool.
Yeah, and then Randy Garn, if you guys know Randy.
Oh,
so
yeah. We know
so
Randy.
it was a six individual angel round, and we're planning to raise another round here coming up fairly soon. But yeah, it's been a great group. So once we raised that round in October, I stepped away from Mountain America and have gone full time on it. And
Is your partner full time too?
Yeah. We've got 4 full time staff. And then we have some contractors working for us, and we just continue to grow the team. We're actually growing our development team right now.
So,
and it's been fun.
What's interesting about this is you were the man in charge at Mountain America to decide to use something like this, right?
Yeah.
So you kind of had this perfect way of like proving the concept.
Well, you knew exactly what you would
And
need
nobody
how
can,
it would
you didn't
work.
really have to, and you didn't really have to ask anybody like, hey, I've got the software I want to try out with our customers. Just like,
Yeah,
I'm
yeah.
just going to put it in myself since I'm the boss, sucker.
Yeah.
And
Well,
I mean,
it's
that's
actually-
pretty awesome.
It's kind of it's interesting. So like because we have a brand product that we're going to release here, you know, in the next like 6 months, but Mountain America, you know, sponsors some of these, you know, these properties that we're using it. So they were inviting some of my team members as they were using it to collaborate in it. But it was interesting. I actually had you know, Sharon actually like brought me into her office one day and was like, and she knew about the software.
Right.
Like we have a really great relationship. We talked about.
Like, Sharon, you don't have to pay for it. You should be thanking me.
I know. And she's like, hey, you know, I mean, because I was starting to promote it on LinkedIn a little bit more of like here, you know, and so there's like, okay, we got to be a little bit like, you know, sensitive to it. So it was kind of interesting. Like we had to have this conversation of like, listen, like I'm growing this company. I don't want to leave today, so don't make me leave today. And she didn't. She was
Well,
like,
it's not like they really challenge each other.
No, they don't. They don't.
Doesn't that only? I totally would look at it like, hey, we just get to benefit from it.
she did.
Okay,
She
cool.
did 100%. And so
I can't wait to get her on the podcast now.
it was
Gotta hear the
she
other
was like,
side.
oh my
I'm
gosh,
just
what's
kidding.
going on? No, but she was super supportive. She just wanted me to be like a little bit careful,
Right.
you know, on how to do that. But it was a good, healthy conversation. But she wanted me to stay around, obviously. But she knew that I was growing a company, you know, that was starting to become successful. And so when I ended up telling her I was leaving, it didn't surprise her, and she
Right.
was super happy for me too, which
Did
was
she make
nice.
you sign a document that got her like 50% off for life?
Well-
on the software once it was
No,
developed?
I will say Mountain America is they're a partner of ours. So
Right.
like we do consulting for Mountain America still.
Oh, that's cool.
Yeah,
you give them a
today.
discount?
Of course.
You're such a liar.
He knows
They
the,
don't need a discount.
He knows
Send a
the
discount
budgets.
for people that need them.
He knows the
that's
budgets.
right. Like, you don't
He knows
need a
exactly
discount.
how much
Sharon.
money he can charge.
Oh, that is hilarious.
He
So
knows where to go before you have to ask for higher up permission.
that's right.
But
Yeah,
Mountain
true. He probably has all
America,
their phone numbers, huh?
but Mountain America's been great. They were a great blessing to me. They're awesome, great people. Sterling, Nathan, Chad, Sharon, they're all awesome. Love working with those guys.
So they're not using the software, but they are using you as a consultant.
yeah, when we have our brand product out, my hope
When it
is
actually launches.
yeah, we'll when we launch that, I'm sure they'll be on. But yeah, that'll be a really fun software.
What a great story. See, it's funny because I think people have we kind of have this idea that everything's been done already. You know what I mean? Because there's just so much stuff. But I mean, this was 2017. This was 5 years ago is all.
Yeah.
Well,
And I mean-
sponsorship's been around
Sponsorship's been around forever.
Yeah.
And so like you've seen both sides of it, and you are not a computer wizard, right? But you're great with people. You're a salesperson. You
Know how to use forks and knives really well.
Yes, even the plastic ones.
Yeah.
But I mean, networking is kind of everything, right? So I mean, you had the right friends, the right relationships. You were able to surround yourself with just MIT educated people. No big deal.
No, I mean, Creed has been unbelievable.
But I mean, you took the
Yeah.
initiative. It's like, hey, in my job currently, I need something like this,
Yeah.
and you did it, and you invested on yourself $30K, which we joke that you lost all that because you had to start over, but in reality,
was an
you didn't
investment.
at all. It
Yeah.
was totally investment.
Yeah.
And so you had to have something to know if it was bad,
Yeah.
or know there's a better way of doing this.
Totally.
But that was still this.
yeah.
And so-
and Creed has been the perfect partner for me because
He sounds like an MIT guy, Creed.
Creed.
You're either
in fact, I
a
think
boxer or you're a genius
or a
with
singer.
that name.
we met for lunch. We met for lunch the first time, and Creed started playing on the loudspeaker. I was like, this has got to be destiny.
Oh my God.
So yeah,
Scott
so
Stapp, if you're listening.
but he's been he's been great, and because it's this compliment of like me having the vision to be able to kind of outline how it should be, being in the industry, and him having the deep software knowledge, but yet he played 4 years of baseball at MIT. They have a baseball team at MIT.
What?
Yeah,
They use analytics for sure.
yeah, 100%.
That's where Moneyball came from.
That totally.
And so he like gets it. He's like, he's not just a software guy. Like he gets he gets what we do.
He's like a CPA with a personality.
Exactly. Yeah.
Probably sees the Matrix.
And so it makes it nice. And I will say this too, like from like Jeff Birmingham, for example, like I didn't know him. I got introduced to him by Jeff Rust.
Right.
As you guys know,
yeah, it used to be.
Yeah, now Truss.
Yeah.
And he introduced me to him, and when Jeff Birmingham and I met for the first time, like we just had a really great discussion about the platform and the business, and I can't thank Jeff enough for believing
is the man
in the product.
It's funny, I just texted him yesterday about coming on the show.
I've been texting him.
Have you really?
Yeah.
Well, maybe that's why he didn't respond to me. He usually responds to me pretty quick.
Yeah, he's got a couple podcasts too.
Oh yeah, I bump into him. He is everywhere. That guy.
He's awesome.
He's the sweetest guy too.
So he's like really good friends with Fidel. So Fidel put me in touch with him.
Oh, nice.
He's like, yeah, whenever you want. So I was waiting.
I used to be a C4 member.
Oh,
that's how I know him.
Well, I have lunch with him tomorrow, so I'll let you guys know.
Remind him.
I'll remind him.
So go on nitty gritty
about it. But he's like to have someone like believe in you and like basically believe in you enough to like invest dollars into your company is a big deal.
For sure.
It's a big deal. And so I can call him at any time. He gives, and same with Randy and the rest of the group. Like they're always really good at responding back if I'm wanting to strategize about this or that. It's been awesome.
So
cool.
Have you noticed some industries, like what are you guys, I mean, obviously you want as many customers as possible, but are there some industries that this just works better for, like sports, or like your software? Does it work better for others than some?
I mean, really, it's customizable to any. I mean, lung cancer and
that's true.
And Clemson Tigers, right? It's like
I would rather be the rep for the Clemson Tigers, though. That sounds more fun to me.
Yeah, exactly.
Than lung cancer.
But it's 70% of sponsorships are made up in sports. So so we're gonna have most of our customer base is on the sports and entertainment side. But then you start to dabble in like the arts and events and nonprofits as well too. So
man, you gotta know how to be. I mean, you're gonna be walking into a lot of different types of rooms and a lot of different type of people.
Oh yeah.
So I'm sure sitting down with the board of a big theater company and then sitting down with a bunch of sports dudes.
They're different.
Very different.
And they speak different language on certain things.
They want different things out of it.
Yep.
Interesting.
Yep.
What a ride, man.
Yeah, it's been fun. Yeah,
it's interesting because you can just start in an industry and just think that you're going to be, you're just selling sponsorships, right?
Yeah.
But who would have ever thought that it just, if you love something, it could go, you can go as far with it as you want.
Well, and whatever you're good at and like whatever your career path is, you just constantly have to be asking the question is like, how can we be better?
For sure.
How can we be better? Whether it's software or anything else, like how can we make this better? And I think if you're always asking questions, just like in your businesses, it's like you always just ask your question, like, how can we make this better? How can we make it better?
Right.
You'll start to innovate.
100%.
And that's the difference.
I would say in a lot of places it is software probably now.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, I probably get 37 messages a day from somebody that has the new restaurant software. Oh man, it's just so many of them. So I just don't answer any of them. Like somebody needs to come in and do something like really cool to get.
You know what
attention.
they got to do to get to you? They literally got to walk in and like do a dog and pony show, and you're like, oh man, that's awesome.
Totally.
You just
and
separated
good luck
yourself.
even doing that, like because there's so many people that still walk in too. But it's like you just got to get creative.
Yeah.
Doesn't mean that you can't sell it. You got to figure out a way to. It's a very watered down or crowded.
What if they
market.
bought you lunch at your own restaurant?
Yeah, that's not going to work. Take me somewhere else. I'm sick of this food. I don't want to you can't buy me lunch of food that I cooked.
Exactly.
That would be weird. But bring me a bunch of sushi or something.
There you go.
Like from a good place.
Yeah.
Like Tsunami, maybe Happy Sumo, if they didn't want to drive to Tsunami.
All those restaurant software tech guys, this
That's
is your
right.
insight.
There you go. There's your insight.
I love
and maybe tickets, to the Jazz front row.
Or Augusta.
Or Augusta. But see, you can't use Augusta because I already got Augusta.
That's true. A different course.
So, yeah, you got to
What's your other course you'd like to go?
Take me to Play Pebble.
Pebble Beach.
I did get to play there once, but I sucked so bad that I really, really need to do it again.
Pebble Beach.
That place was amazing. You and I just need to do that next year. Just do a little family trip. We're brother-in-laws. I don't know if to do that. But.
Yeah.
Well, that's cool. And I'm excited to watch what happens with this because you're going to meet some
it's
amazing
just the beginning.
people. It's just the beginning. Like, you're going to have some really fun experiences. You're going to be on sidelines where you don't have to work.
Yeah.
You're going to be courted.
Yeah. It's been a ton of fun. Like it's more fun to like show people the platform and have them go, oh my gosh, I need this. Like that's fun for me.
So are there things you're going to sponsor as Sponsor CX to get your name out there?
At some point, we have done some sponsorships. We sponsored the National Sports Forum down in Austin, Texas this last year or a couple months ago. And it was really good. Like we got a lot of exposure from a lot of the Big Five sports teams there, which has caused a lot of really good discussions to happen. We've sponsored a few just different conferences and things like that. But yeah, one day we'll get there where we can put our big boy pants on and actually.
Do your metrics take?
We're not going to be crypto.com.
Right. Hey, you never know.
Arena in LA, but
does your software take into account like social media and influencers and like that reach on the sponsorship side?
Definitely can.
Okay, interesting.
Yeah, definitely can.
So what about NIL? What do you think about all that? So that's the name, image, likeness for kids in the NCAA.
Yeah.
Is there value in that? Do you think it's going to go away?
I think it's here to stay. I think it's. I just think there needs to be some more regulation a little around it. It's the wild west.
I feel like it's basically just people like paying to be friends with the athletes they like.
Yeah.
Because I just don't see the upside. Like, there's nobody that I've really seen on like BYU football, for example.
Yeah.
Like, I've had quite a few of the athletes at BYU reach out to me, and it's like, yeah, I totally want to work with them. We're going to do something with the offensive line this year. Yeah. That'll be fun. But, like, none of them really do very good with social media.
Yeah.
And it's like, I don't really know how to babysit that.
They need a little bit more coaching.
They need some training. The athletes need training.
They need training.
But the other thing that scares me the most I'm not joking, I get twice a week some new, like, agent in quotations.
Yeah.
Like some new, like, we're an NIL agent. We've got some athletes now. And I'm like, well, what? And they just like work in some office that has nothing to do with sports whatsoever, but they represent. So that's the other thing. Like I told myself I won't work with any athlete that has like an agency.
Yeah. I mean, we did at Mountain America, we worked direct with the athletes.
Right.
It was with Shaylee and Alex.
Yep, I saw that. See, Alex was one that reached out to me, and I just couldn't think of anything to do. I was like, I don't.
Well, you don't do it just to do it. You got to have you have to have a marketing plan.
Totally. Like I love Alex. I would love to do it.
Like with us, like at Mountain America, we were rolling out these exclusive BYU debit cards, and credit cards, and so. Like to be able to tie in these personalities and be able to show off these cards,
and do a commercial,
how we use the card and all that, like that made sense for us to be able to tie that in instead of having just like a generic actor or actress.
Right.
Like
could have got Mike Elisa.
Yeah, exactly. we get some iconic, like I mean, Shaylee and Alex are like the two best players on the men's and women's teams, right? So
true.
So. You know, that's the direction we want.
You just have to have a plan.
You have to have a plan. You don't do it just to do it. You do it
and
with
I think a lot
intent.
of people are.
Yeah.
And that's cool if you want to do it, but I'm just like, I don't.
Yeah.
I suck at social media as it is. I don't know what to ask for. I don't know.
And that's sponsorship in general.
Right.
Don't do sponsorship unless you actually have a plan.
Right.
To actually do it.
See, and for me, it's funny. My sponsorship with BYU, it's always just been about people getting food. That's why half of it is trade, because I know people are going to eat it at events. And that's the one that helps me the most.
Yeah.
So I guess that's a plan. But outside of that, I'm like, I don't really know what to do with it.
Well, and I'll leave it on this. When you outline a sponsorship partnership, there's a few things that you need to make sure that are in the deal. Like big brand, making sure that your brand is known.
Right.
You've got to make sure that there's some sort of media in there, whether it is social media or TV or radio, like having something in there is super important because that's where you can get mass reach out that way. You know, the other what marketing elements in that sponsorship. So like being able to track, like in your case, how many people have eaten that food and if you're handing out like the coupons and stuff, like you can track how much is coming back in
Yeah,
sales.
that's what we do with tickets. At
Right.
BYU.
Yep. So that's an actionable marketing asset to where you can go, I may not be able to track my big brand asset, but I can track like how many
Coming in to eat.
coming in from there.
Right.
And then there's business development, like with tickets,
Right.
you know, to be able to like maybe you're bringing the Traeger grill guys, you know, with you or whoever it is,
Right.
you know, with you to the game or something, and be able to build relationships there. But I think those are some key elements that they have to really look at. And I think the last one would be community, like finding some sort of a community give back, because the more that you give back to the community, it'll come back tenfold. And so if you're looked upon as an organization that's not just me, but how can I help, you know, kids have coats or provide shoes for your children or help cancer research or whatever it may be, like that goes a really long way in people's minds and their affinity with a brand as well. But
Jeez,
those
that was
are
good advice for all of us.
Yeah, that was really good.
So, well, thanks for sharing that.
Yeah, no problem. Thanks for having me on, guys.
This is awesome.
That was so
Great
fun.
story. I'm excited to watch you. So, do you have social media? How do people pay attention to you?
Yeah, so you can follow me on LinkedIn. That's probably the best.
He's professional.
Yeah, Jason Smith
Very
at LinkedIn.
professional.
I do have a Instagram account that's more personal, but it's BYU Jason. I think is my from my
That's
my
right.
BYU days. I
That's
probably
right.
need to change it up.
No, you don't.
but
Just leave it.
But that's my Instagram. But yeah, I also have a podcast as well, Sponsor Talk. So
Sponsor Talk.
yeah,
I listened to a couple. It's awesome.
yeah. So
You really can learn a lot from stuff like that, even if it's not really your world. Like marketing is just, it's relationship. It all boils down to relationships. And so I think you can really learn a lot from that.
Yeah,
stuff.
check it out. We have, I have, some really influential, business leaders in the sponsorship industry on there, and we're gonna have you on there too.
That's right.
We'll bring you on.
Let's do it.
Yeah,
I would love it. I can complain about my sponsorship mishaps that have happened.
There you go. We can talk
There's a few of
We'll
them.
talk Bam Bam sponsorship.
That's right. You're the man.
So-
Well, thanks for coming, Jake.
Yeah,
you.
thanks guys.
Thanks.
Appreciate it.